Good. Um, the chair and vice chair are currently absent today, so I just got to start the meeting with a motion that Luke Tyson will chair the meeting. So I'll start with the motion for that if anyone can second. Thanks, Andrew. So I'll start this meeting. The first item is to welcome to the Squamish Nation traditional territory. So the District of Squamish operates on the Squamish Nation traditional unceded territories. The first one is to make an adoption of the agenda. So the recommendation from staff is that the December 18th, 2025 advisory design panel agenda be adopted. Can I have a motion? Sarah Tippler, and seconded by Andrew. Item 3 is the committee minutes from advisory design panel minutes from September the 18th, 2025. Staff recommendation that advisory design panel minutes dated September the 18th, 2025 be adopted, and a motion to adopt. Or any comments to those? Okay, Sarah and Andrew, thank you. So on to the items of business for today. It's the first item is 3990 Government Road. So I'll pass it over to Robyn Hay. Take it away.
Thanks, Luke. Good afternoon. My name is Robyn Hay, planner with the district. The purpose of today's meeting is for ADP to review a form and character development permit application for the property at 39900 Government Road in the North Yards neighborhood. The project is a partnership between the district as the landowner, BC Housing as the developer, and Squamish Community Housing Society and Squamish Helping Hands as the not-profit housing providers. The proposal is for 2 6-story buildings, including an affordable housing building to the north, fronting Government Road, and a supportive housing building to the south, fronting the future Pioneer Way Road extension. In the interim, a multi-use path is proposed along the eastern side of the development. The supportive housing building is classified as institutional, and it is exempt from the form and character development permit requirements. However, the district encourages the applicant to apply relevant design guidelines where appropriate. Staff are generally supportive of the proposal and are seeking ADP's feedback on building form and character and landscaping, with particular attention to pedestrian circulation and landscaping within the parking areas. Also, the southern elevation of the affordable housing building in anticipation of the future Pioneer Way extension. Given the nature of this affordable and supportive housing project, staff asked the panel to consider costs in any design recommendations. This application qualifies for an expedited review process requiring only one ADP review, after which staff will work with the applicant to resolve any outstanding issues. And then with that, I'll turn it over to the architect team for their presentation.
Great. Thank you, Robyn. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Colin Trong. I'm principal architect in Integra Architecture. It's a privilege for me to present this project to everyone this afternoon. It's a wonderful project in our opinion. And I'd like to introduce our project team who's also here with us this afternoon. We have CPA, development consultants. Lindsay Fraser is directly behind me this afternoon as well to answer any questions on behalf of our housing partners, Squamish Helping Hands and Squamish Community Housing Society. And to my left is Michael Patterson from P&A Associates, our landscape architect, which I'll hand over the presentation after we finish the architectural portion. So this is our subject site here, highlighted in red. It's located within the North Yards neighborhood. This property will remain as district-owned land and BC Housing as the operator, as Robyn previously mentioned. The site is irregularly shaped and contains a decommissioned section of Highway 99 that runs north-south between Government Road and Pioneer Way. The site is well connected with public transit and bike routes along Government Road and within walking distance of local businesses and recreational facilities. To the north, there are townhomes and single-family residences. On the west, there's a mobile home park. The east and south sides of is undeveloped land. Here are the street view images of the property along Government Road on the right-hand side. Our development proposes the construction of two buildings. The affordable rental building is arranged in an L-shaped form at the northeast corner of the site, establishing a strong street presence, while the supportive housing building is located at the south end of the site and is accessed by a driveway off Government Road. Both buildings' setting has been determined by their programming requirements, also for optimization of solar exposure and to minimize the flood risk impacts to neighboring properties. 95 service parking spaces are provided at grade, including loading areas and service access. We have also highlighted that the future road, Pioneer Way, which is on the right-hand side, which is subject to the district acquisition from the Crown. Our understanding is this road will not be built in the foreseeable future. Therefore, it is not considered in a site planning concept. However, a multi-use path is proposed along the east, which is on the right side, to provide a connection from the south end to Government Road. These are the site challenges for this development. A flood hazard assessment report was required and completed. The development has been designed to maintain flood conveyance capacity and avoid increasing flood risk to adjacent or upstream properties. The minimum flood control level was established, and all building service rooms are located on the ground floor. The site is also within the wildfire hazard area, which influenced our choice in non-combustible building materials and the implementation of a fire priority zone for landscaping to reduce wildfire risk, helping to protect people, property, and structures. At the north end of the site, the affordable housing building lobby is oriented towards Government Road. The interior amenity space is located adjacent to the main lobby and has direct access to the covered outdoor space. A path leads to the kids' play area on the left that provides further amenity space for residents. A secondary building entry is provided on the south side of this building, providing access from the surface parking area. Accessible paths of travel are provided to the building from Government Road to the north and from the surface parking lot. Residential units are located on levels 2 through 6 and are serviced by 2 central elevators. The L-shaped form of the building allows for ample natural light while maximizing the building's efficiency. Reducing undulations contributes to the building's envelope performance and energy targets. Overall, there's 100 residences on 20 units per floor. 20 units, which is 20%, are adaptable, and 5 units, 5%, are fully accessible for the overall building. Here are select examples of unit plans. All units are designed to meet BC housing standards, ensuring efficiency, livability, meeting adaptability and accessibility as required. At the south end of the site, the supportive housing building is oriented with its main entry facing north, towards a parking area. Program support spaces and services are provided throughout the main floor. 2 outdoor amenity areas are proposed. One is adjacent to the dining hall, which is the top right, and another south of the multi-purpose room, which is on the bottom side, provides an abundance of natural lighting and southern exposure with outdoor programs uses. We have worked extensively with Helping Hands Society to determine programming requirements and meeting their objectives in conjunction with the support of BC Housing. The residential units are located on levels through 6 and are wrapped around 2 central elevators. There are 65 residences in total, 13 units per floor, all designed to be 100% adaptable, and 2 units per floor will be fully accessible. Our development complies with the DPA3 by incorporating modern architectural design that harmonizes with the natural surroundings. These present images of existing buildings in Squamish provides us with the inspiration in the design of the proposed development. Here you can see framed element features, the use of materials such as cementitious lap siding, cementitious panels, and corrugated metal siding provides visual interest and a varied building expression. Wood-looking materials provides warmth that harmonizes with its natural setting. The architectural design proposed is a contemporary architectural character that blends urban form with surrounding natural landscape. The design draws from both modern and West Coast influences, complementing the existing diversity of the streetscape. The building massings are articulated through material variation and a contemporary color palette, accented by warm cedar wood look soffits and accents. Fiber cement panels and cedar wood look accents highlight the building's form, while generous glazing allows for ample natural light. These elements establish rhythm and visual interest across the facade. Large roof overhangs with strong lines provide both weather protection and solar shading, while an extended canopy on the north facade emphasizes and anchors the main entrance. The supportive housing design maintains a similar material and color palette. However, the different building form and the creative selection of materials and accent locations changes the feel and rhythm of the architectural expression, which gives this building its own identity. Similarly, an extended canopy on the north facade creates a strong main entrance element. The exterior building materials are high quality, durable, and non-combustible per the requirements for buildings located within a wildfire hazard area. Materials include fiber cement panels, siding with a wood look finish, brick masonry, and corrugated metal siding. The building's massings are articulated through material variation and a contemporary color palette of white, grays, beige, black, and by warm cedar wood look soffits and accent panels. Elegant brick masonry provides a durable cladding material that distinguishes the ground floor. The supportive housing exterior building materials proposed are similar to the affordable rental building to provide a homogeneous development. The next few slides shows the building's elevations. Though indicated flat as an image, at a human scale, buildings are not viewed directly flat or as an overall perception. These images present the building's massing, articulation, and material selections. This is south elevation for the affordable rental building here. In the west elevation, this is the supportive housing east elevation. And this is the west elevation of the supportive housing. Our development will be designed in accordance with the BC Energy Step Code Level 3 for the affordable rental building and Level 4 for the supportive housing. The ownership team is committed to designing, building, and operating buildings that provide healthy, comfortable living environments while being highly efficient in water use, reducing emissions, and minimizing environmental impacts. Through the design process, we will optimize the building design to ensure energy efficiency. Sustainable strategies include high-performance envelope systems, recycled content of building materials, low VOC interior finishes, waste diversion, parking spaces pre-wired for EV charging, as well as high energy efficient appliances and fixtures will be considered. Thank you. Now I'll hand over the presentation to Michael Patterson.
Thank you, Colin. So the first slide here provides just an overview of our site. So you can see to the north, the affordable housing and project, and to the south is the supportive housing project. We've worked to provide a landscape that combines the two in a consistent finish from a landscape perspective. And so as we walk through, and the other thing I just wanted to point out was the area to the south in the lighter green is an area that at the beginning of the project belonged to the site, but as the project moves forward, it is likely that that area will be looked at as maybe going back to the district of Squamish or not belonging to the supportive housing site. Next slide. So as we focus on the affordable housing project, you can see that to the left is the vehicular entry to the parking area for both projects. The lobby entry is to the east, to the right, on the north side for the affordable housing. We have a covered area of outdoor amenity landscape that is linked to the interior amenity landscape, and that access to the west to an area for kind of a communal area, both incorporating a children's play, but also a covered outdoor pavilion and a seating opportunity for parents or seniors to be in the outside and to participate in a sort of a group area. We do have Class B parking provided that meets the requirements. And we've also, just to the south of the building on the east side, you can see that we've also provided a separate pavilion. And the intent there is to have an outdoor space that would be separated from the building, and that would be a place where people could go and have a covered space in the landscape and would be able to, I guess, smoke in that area. The parking area is, we have planted trees, and you can see along the west boundary that we have trees going down on the west side to provide a buffer and transition to the neighboring project. Next slide. Again, we've got a number of amenities, as Colin has mentioned. On the east, on the northeast side, we have an exterior amenity off the dining room, and we envision that as communal outdoor gathering and dining. Just north of that is where we have the Class B bike spots for this particular project. And to the south, again, off the interior amenity, we have a variety of spaces. We have a covered outdoor pavilion, seating area. We've got an area for staff to step outside the building and have their place where they can be. And then just at the very south, we have this sort of very kind of special node and gathering space for residents, and it can be sort of a teaching space, sort of like a learning circle idea that we have integrated into the plan. Next slide. We have provided lighting, so we're anticipating lighting for nighttime use, and we have made sure that all the sort of connections and passageways where people will be walking will be illuminated. There is, of course, the area to the east, south of the building that you're seeing there that is under cover of the building above, and of course that will be illuminated. We're mostly showing here the landscape lighting. Next slide. And similarly, on the supportive housing project, we have lighting to make sure that everything is secure and safe and visible for resident use for nighttime usage. Next slide, please. The planting plan, this is part of the Fire Smart area. So we have been working with the Fire Smart principals, make sure that we've got conifers more than the required distance away from the building. Primarily, it's a deciduous landscape with broad-leafed evergreens. Fire Smart is always a bit difficult to interpret sometimes with particular species, but I think we've done our best to make sure that those principles have been incorporated into the project, while at the same time providing a landscape that's interesting and that's hardy to the area. And that is fairly drought tolerant. We will be providing an irrigation system for establishment and for maintenance. So we've tried to, as I say, buffer the landscape, the buildings with a kind of a nice rich landscape cover, and provide for a variety of seasonal interest and other aesthetic reasons. Next slide. Similarly, for the supportive housing, you can see again that we've got a fair amount of planting landscape for people to look out on and to enclose the project. Next slide. And this is just showing that we have irrigated the plan, so I won't spend much time. I just wanted to kind of bring this up to indicate that it is irrigated, so you can see that. Next slide is the supportive housing building, which again would be irrigated. And the next slide. And then these are some sections through the north building. So the top section is through just to the left of the entry lobby, and you can see the relationship of the project to the street. There will be some public realm improvements. We heard the the pathway to the east, and then there will be a new sidewalk to the north. And here you can see the section through the lobby and the slope out to the sidewalk. And then is the bottom section is an east-west section through the exterior play area amenity. And you can see the relationship between the driveway, the play area. You can see that the play area is located a little bit lower than the building itself. There's a ramp a 5% ramp, I think it is, that provides access down into that area. And similarly, we have sections on the next slide for the supportive housing. I should point out the grading of the mixed-use pathway is still, when we submitted the DP, we just had gotten confirmation, so the grading is close, but probably still needs to be completed. But so I think these sections are very accurate. So the top section there is through the supportive housing, east-west, and you can see the grade relationships to the multi-purpose path on the east and to the neighboring property to the west. You can see that we're elevated a bit from that, and also the buffered planting on each side. The next slide is a little bit south through the south amenity area, and you can see the covered amenity. Oh, go back one. You can see the covered amenity and how that space feels. And then the last slide is kind of more of a north-south section through that exterior amenity. And then lastly, the images on the next page are sort of what we see this project from a material point of view looking like. We've got textured paving for the affordable housing project. We're thinking of cast concrete with score lines for the supportive housing. We wanted to make sure that the pavement surface was fairly even, consistent. We have outdoor dining and picnic tables. We've got bike racks, seating, covered seating under pavilions. And then the seating node that I mentioned, which is similar sort of to a learning circle on that right image. We've also got a little bit of urban gardening for the supportive housing and or for the supportive housing, yes, and then the play area for the affordable housing. So that I'll leave that for questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah. I will take it online to our panel here for the first round of questions. I believe we've got Andrew, Michael, Sarah, Kim. Is there anyone else that I've not seen online? Sorry, I can only see partial, just in case anyone joined. Okay, I'll start the questions off then with Andrew. Sorry, just 1 second.
Sorry, Russell, I'm just looking. It looks like we may have lost Michael.
No, I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, perfect. Great. Never mind.
Okay. Sorry, Michael was just hiding there. But yeah, over to you, Andrew.
Thanks, Luke. I'm going to comment on public art. Looks like there's under section 3613J, there's some conversation to include public art. Is there a plan to include any sort of public art with the project?
Could you guys hear that okay? Yeah, okay.
Do you want me
To pull up here? Yeah. Yeah. We'll show
Hey, everyone. So my name is Lindsay. I'm working with CPA Development Consultants, and we're working with BC Housing / Helping Hands on the supportive project and with Housing Squamish on the affordable rental. In terms of public art, it's not something that we have discussed thus far. It's not a part of the architectural plans. If it's something that is desired, then we can have a discussion about it.
Does staff have any comment? They've commented here about exploring a mural under 36.4C on building A. Do you have any comment on approaching public art for the site?
Yeah, I think it was just identified that it is a guideline and it's not being met. So I put that forward to the applicant, and we have not yet had a discussion about that. But it's certainly something that we will be exploring, I think.
Given that it's a condition that's not met, would there be some sort of measure to meet that objective post this meeting, and given the responses that ADP is eligible to provide?
Sorry, are you asking us to report back to ADP once?
How will you go about implementing the public art requirement, given that we can only option for A or B of the typical options that typical responses that ADP can provide?
Yeah, so these are just guidelines to be followed. The form and character are guidelines, so they're not requirements. So there is a desire from the staff level to provide some type of public art. Given the nature of the project, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like in terms of budget and location. So it's a little bit early days, I would say, in terms of finalizing that, and there will be future discussions. But yeah, I think we all like to see some public art there. If ADP has any particular suggestions, we're open to hear those as well today.
Okay, I'll save that for some future comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. On to Michael.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I would just like to hear a bit more about the that west wall and the finishing of that wall, and sort of the approach to landscaping in front of that wall.
The west wall along the property line, the neighboring property, I think currently in the plan, we're sort of implying that it's a concrete wall, and I don't think that decision has yet been made. I think there's some costing that needs to be done to decide how that wall fits into the overall budget, and how best, also from a geotechnical point of view, how that wall should be constructed. We are planting in front of that wall. We've got a fairly constant rhythm of trees to provide sort of a buffer at a higher level. And then underneath that, we have a variety of plants, and which then kind of brings up the need to maintain that area. And so currently on the plans, we are showing a maintenance path along that edge. There we had quite a bit of discussion how best to sort of to show that edge, and ultimately it felt that it probably was important to be able to access it from the property, and that's why we put in that maintenance path there.
And the maintenance path, I was noting that in the sections, it shows up in some of the sections, but seemed like in other sections it did not, even though it was showing in the plan.
Yeah, it's definitely shown on the plan, and if for some reason it's not shown on a section, it might be the particular view of the section, or maybe that's an error. But no, we are definitely planning to have that maintenance path up that west side.
Okay.
I know that there was some discussion in the report that Robyn provided back, that there was a little bit of apprehension about having the path there in terms of it looking perhaps like a public thoroughfare, which, you know, we're just at a schematic design stage here, and we can take those comments back and ensure that the way that it's implemented does not give that impression, and that it is, you know, properly barricaded and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This may be a question for the district, but where the Pioneer, like the future Pioneer Way road right of way is, I'm just curious, like the current design of that multi-use path as the application stands right now, looks like that multi-use path is sort of in what would be the actual traveled lane of the road. And I'm just curious if there's any reason that this multi-use path should not be in its sort of final location, or I'm just looking at how the access might be from the site down to the multi-use path, and just making sure that that's going to be functional in the future condition as well. So I'm curious if I'm interpreting it wrong in terms of where Pioneer Way will be in the future, like the full extent.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So Pioneer Way, the final ultimate condition, is subject to a land agreement with the Crown and other parties. So if you see the site plan here, essentially the southern half of the site shows the multi-use pathway kind of going around that curve. The ultimate condition would be that curve continuing around, like you can see the dotted lines there, so that it would meet up with the intersection on Government Road and
I don't know what that cross street is.
yeah, Centennial, I think it is. So the multi-use path is just an interim condition until we finalize any land deal. So the north part of that multi-use path shown on this plan would not be the location of the road. That would essentially be could be additional development opportunity for the district to pursue there.
Okay, so it's possible that where the proposed multi-use path is at the south of the site could be in the middle of the future road.
Yeah, so the south portion of the multi-use path is in the alignment of the future Pioneer Road. The north section of the multi-use path is essentially in the middle of a potential or off to the side of the development site. And part of this, we did go to council with this design to get their buy-in, because typically we would require a developer to construct the entire road. Twofold: one, we don't have that land agreement with the Crown, and then second, this is a partnership project, and just looking at the funds available to do the work, council agreed to waive a number of these off-site upgrades.
Okay. Thanks for that explanation. The other question I had is about the tree provision in the parking lot. I see that there is a requirement or a suggestion for a certain number of trees per parking stalls. Were more tree locations looked at, or is there a certain design constraint? Maybe it is the number of parking spaces required that are preventing more trees from getting put into the parking area?
Yes, there are design constraints. So parking stalls, but also just the access for loading and the turning radiuses that are required have really kind of defined that parking lot. And so we've worked to get trees where we can. But yes, we do have limitations that we're working to.
Okay. And then in your decision of where trees were going, is there a minimum soil volume requirement that you've been working to? Or I didn't see anything on the drawings indicating
Yeah,
soil
we
volumes.
typically do work to soil volumes for certain sizes of trees, and it's something that we're going to have to continue to work on. Certainly some of the trees in the tighter spots would probably need structural soil under the parking in order to give them the required soil volumes that they would need. So it's again, it's a bit of an ongoing process, and due to the nature of this project in both affordable and supportive housing, there's sort of costing considerations as well that are a part of the decision.
Okay, but I get you would use structural soil or soil cells if required to get the soil volume for the trees.
Yeah.
And then this other question has to do with the irrigation on Government Road. I know like the property line kind of comes across the boulevard and back boulevard space, not perfectly parallel with the sidewalk, and I'm just wondering if there's a requirement for the development to provide irrigation to the boulevard trees and space. That might be a district question.
Yeah, at the moment, we don't know. We're not even actually providing boulevard trees, so that's not something that's shown on our drawings, and we're not anticipating providing irrigation, but it's no doubt part of the discussion as the project moves forward.
Okay. And then I think the last thing I'd just like to hear about is the sort of criteria, how you went about selecting the plant species for the project.
Yeah, ideally, we would have loved to have had more conifers, given that sort of the surrounding landscape, but fire smart requirements really limit the amount and location for those. So we've located a few where we can, further away from the buildings. We've tried to, for instance, on the west side, though, that line of trees, we wanted to provide a line of trees that would provide a fairly good sized canopy. So probably more of a medium tree than a large tree. Choice of other trees is really, again, to provide interest. You know, we really like to provide interest through the seasons for deciduous trees, and for the same for the plant material. If we can provide native, that's what we do as well. But again, we're really trying to work within the fire smart guidelines, and also being somewhat cognizant of bear requirements as well. But it's always a bit of a balance of those things.
Okay. And sorry, just going back to the boulevard tree question, you said you're not providing boulevard trees. In the drawings, it does say proposed street tree per district of Squamish standards. Can you just clarify?
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. You're correct. On Government Road, I was focused on the east side. But yes, you can see that on the Government Road, we do have 3 street trees there that we are providing. And again, I don't know what the requirements at this point are for irrigation, whether it's irrigation or gator bags and maintenance for 1 year. We'll find that out as we work with the district.
Okay. I think that's the questions I have for right now.
Thanks, Michael. Sarah, questions from you, please?
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. I've got a few questions. First of all, I mean, I think it might just be your symbology you're using, but can you just sort of describe the grade changes around the rental housing building? Because it seems that it goes down and then up, and then these curb cuts / ramps that seem to be textured. Can you just explain that to me?
Yes, so the project is set higher than the existing landscape due to floodplain requirements, and particularly for the affordable housing project to the north, we needed to balance the landscape, building up the landscape to buffer the building against flooding requirements that we needed to meet. So we were trying to keep the landscape at the existing grade around the perimeter of the site as much as possible. And so that's why we opted to slope down to the play area, so that grade is lower down than the building. But it also provides a little bit of variety and interest in the landscape, I think, as well. Just mitigating the transition between the building, which is set up a bit higher, and the sidewalk. And so we have, people recreating on site that are a little bit closer to the sidewalk elevation. I think that's just good urban design for good connectivity overlook. We are set up so in that bottom section, if you look at the left-hand side of that section, or the west side, you can see the relationship of the project to the adjacent site. So there is, a grade change there. There will be a retaining wall. It will have a guardrail, and we do have planting there to buffer that transition. But it is set up, and that's fairly consistent along the project, that relationship. On the east side, On the section on the lower section, you can see that we slope out from the building at a fairly gentle slope in this particular location where the section is taken. So generally, we're always higher than the surrounding. The one exception would be if you flip to the next slide, is to the south side of the supportive housing project. So there on the bottom section, you can see that where we have that sort of circular seating node, we slope up to the landscape, and that's because the landscape kind of berms up in that little area to the south of the project. But that's really the only place where we are kind of nestled into the grade. Everywhere else we're above the existing grade.
Okay, and then I see that there's, again, in the rental housing building, that there is, whoops, you've got scooter parking on the main level. So are you implying that somebody who uses a scooter wouldn't be able to take it to their unit?
Scooter parking. Yeah, there's some scooter parking in the affordable rental.
Oh, and the affordable rental.
Yeah, the intent would be, I think it would depend on the individual and what their needs were. If they were using if they were living in an accessible unit, or they just used a scooter to get around. We had a little bit of space sort of left over on that main floor, and so we thought that a small scooter parking area would be helpful for people.
Yeah, just in the past, I mean, there's projects that have happened in Squamish before, and people are having to park their mobility devices down on the main floor and then walk around a building and up elevators and down hallways. And the whole point of having the mobility device is actually to help them ambulate. So that's just something to be cognizant of. Can you explain why there's not an access aisle as well there's 3 accessible parking spaces in front of the rental housing building, but there's only 1 access aisle?
I think
Is that the intent?
I think that was also registered in the planning comments, and so is maybe just an error.
Yeah, sorry, that definitely is an error, and we will adjust the parking space there to allow for the accessible clearance on the side of the parking space.
Okay.
Yep.
I find that, I mean, maybe I'll leave this for comments. Do you have any visitor accessible parking that's going to be available there? Because those 3 are for residents, and you have, a number of accessible units as well as adaptable units that may or may not.
Yeah, currently we're not showing any accessible visitor parking. However, we could add accessible parking for a visitor space, because we do have space. Right now, all the visitor parking is on the west side of the property, so some of those can be converted. Also, just to note that there were some challenges due to site constraints in terms of providing as much parking as we can, and because accessible parking spaces are larger and they do need the clearance pathway next to them, it did pose a little bit of a challenge, but we'll definitely revisit that and look at that over again.
Well, you could utilize the most western resident regular parking that is adjacent to the loading space and use that loading space
Yeah.
as your access aisle, right? So
No, for sure.
you just need to add a curb cut and
Yeah.
that's dealt with.
Yeah, the only difference there is just they're small cars, so therefore they're a little bit smaller. So definitely we'll take it back and we'll look at it and see if we can make it a larger regular parking space with the accessible path clearance pathway adjacent to it. So we'll definitely take a look at that.
And just to clarify, these sort of curb cut / ramps that are within the sidewalk, are you proposing that they're going to be textured with these lines across?
It was just paint.
Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't really gotten that far. I think we'd have to work with the code consultant to find out what's required. We just wanted to make sure that we had an accessible access proven out on the plans, and so that's why we are showing those ramps at this stage.
Okay. And then on that same note, this temporary path, the paved pathway, which of course the first half is going to remain in the same spot, where there's only one connection back to the parking lot, which is closer to the supportive housing, but it seems that there's stairs on either side. Like you have to go up 3 stairs and then down 3 stairs. Is that still what's being proposed, or are you guys working through that as per the comments in the report?
No, we are aware that that was a comment, and so that's something that we can look at as we move forward, but we haven't done that before the ADP, so.
Okay. And then just finally, within the supportive housing units, it seems that there's the scooter parking and bicycle parking is shared. I'm just curious of whether or not there is sufficient space for bicycles for people in the supportive housing building, given that they may or may not have vehicles, but a bicycle might be more accessible to them. It just seemed like it was quite small relative to what was available in the rental building.
Yes, you're correct. The original design allowed for a much more larger space for bicycle and scooter storage. However, working with BC Housing, we had to hit an efficiency target. We were really under target based on their criteria and their calculations. To ensure that the project was viable, we had to shrink down a lot of spaces. And this is one of the sacrifices that had to be made. So that's a resultant of why this bicycle storage, scooter storage is small. There was exploration of having an external or like a standalone bike shelter.
Yeah.
However, due to site constraints and issues around security and so forth, and being a further proximity away from the main entry or from the building itself poses issues for the supportive housing residents. So therefore, therefore the resultant, as I mentioned, is we end up with a space of this size.
Okay. And then finally, in both the supportive housing and in I believe there's picnic tables by the rental housing building. I'm just curious if any of them are accessible, if they have an extended top that you could wheel under.
Yeah, a great question. I don't think they are, and I think they should be. So that's something that we can easily change.
Okay. And then is the intent, I mean, you had spoken in your presentation that the ramp down to the kids' play area was like 5%, but in fact, it's at the maximum slope it can be, 8.3. So I'm wondering whether or not that's something that you were going to revisit and try and reduce, or if that is your final plan.
I think in that instance, it probably would be the final. We probably looked at that initially at 5%, and it just took too long to get down and kind of compromise the amenity space. Or we felt that it compromised the amenity space, so that's why we pushed it back to the 8.33. Yeah, and again,
which is
what we're trying
the
to
absolute
do
minimum you can do.
What's that?
I said it's the absolute minimum that you can do, right? In terms of usability. So I'll leave the rest for comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Kim, ready with some questions, please?
Just a couple. I had a question on the rental building and I think the greater part of the bike parking inside is on the north side of the building. How do people get their bikes there? Do they take them down the hallway or do they go around the building to come in? Because you have a door on the north side as well. What was the thought there?
Just one moment.
So in regards to the bike storage space on the north side, there is a door that leads to the exterior. So they do have exterior access to that bike storage room. Similarly, the bike storage room on the south side, there's an exterior door as well. And there's also a exterior door for the bike storage room, which is on the lower right-hand corner as well. The intent is we don't want people bring bikes through common spaces because again, it could be muddy, wet, dirty, etc. But we do have a convenience door within the corridor itself to allow people to have access to their bikes, so they can come down the elevators, go down the corridors, get access to the bike storage rooms, grab their bike, and then leave through the exterior doors. So there is provision provided there.
And so then they go out that door and then by the main entrance onto the road. Is that the intention? Sort of the path of travel?
That's right. There's they go left or right once they leave especially that room there on the top side there. They can leave either on the left or right side. So either past the main entry or past the kids' play area there, I believe.
And is the number of bike spaces a requirement that you have?
Yes, it is. It's a very high requirement, but yes, we're hitting the zoning requirements for bike spaces.
Yep. And the bike spaces are going to be there's just no storage for other things for people. They don't have storage lockers or anything. The bike storage is just bike storage. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have designed the units to have some in-suite storage, so they do have storage
I saw that.
in-suite. Yeah, and then bicycle storage will be separate.
Okay. And then another question I had was, are you going to have charging stations in the parking areas?
We will be. We have some provision for Robyn for EV charging. It's under right now. I think they're identified on the surface parking plans. There's which is undercovered, so they will be protected, and there will be provision for EV charging.
Okay. That's really all I had in questions that haven't been asked. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim. Just back to you, Sarah. You got your hand up there.
Yeah, on that same note, is there going to be for e-bikes, will there be charging within the bike storages?
For the affordable housing, there wasn't a wish from the housing partner to provide any. We have provided some for the supportive housing, but not for the rental housing building. So if the housing partner has requests based on the needs for their development, then yes, we can provide provision for it.
Yeah, I think it is something that we would implement. It's just not been one of our top conversations thus far, but yeah, given that so many people utilize e-bikes these days, we'll be sure to include some electrical probably in all of them, I would imagine, but yeah, we'll take that back for sure.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. I think I'm the last one, so thanks for the presentation. My first question is just a quick one for staff, just to clarify this future extension of Pioneer Road. Understanding that it's, I guess, somewhat unclear, but is it just going to be like a typical road section of like 20-meter right of way to anticipate to be 2 road widths and bike lane?
Yeah, just a typical, I think, standard road width. There's a bike lane, sidewalks, boulevard, landscaping, pretty typical.
Okay, and it's intended in the future that the multi-use path become integrated with that road right away?
I think so. I think the multi-use path, the plan is to have on the north, on the north side, there would be a multi-use path kind of meandering up around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good. I'm just trying to contextualize my question here, because it's mostly arranged about how the building interacts with this future road right of way. And I acknowledge that that's actually probably a really hard thing to design for, like a future uncertainty. But I just would like to know what thought has been put into that, especially in the south building, and how that building will have frontage onto that future road. How have you arranged those spaces to have that direct connection, or understand like that public private interface?
Obviously, there was the assumption that that will be the road will be part of the development in an early phase. We did a feasibility study allowing for 2 buildings originally on the north end, and then the supportive housing on the south end. Originally, knowing that future road Pioneer Way will be developed at the same time as the project. We reviewed access to the site through the middle portion as well of Pioneer Way. But from my understanding is that engineering did not approve that because of the amount of traffic and congestion that happens along Pioneer Way. So when we work with our civil consultants and so forth and with the district, we understood that, again, that this road there's so much uncertainty around the orientation of the road and how it connects through to the northern portion. And originally it was actually drawn as well to go through to the north side. So doing this curve here, this curvature, was to go through, and there's an offset in the road. So taking obviously those parameters into place, we had to design obviously based on conditions that we have no control of. But ultimately, obviously, ensuring that the project is financially viable, working with our partners, housing partners, determining unit mix, programming requirements. It just naturally led to the placement of the buildings and the shape of the buildings. And for that reason, it was always the intent was to have the affordable rental housing building frontage government road and having the supportive housing tucked in a little bit further to the south because it is a smaller building. So naturally, they just kind of fit within themselves. And then also working in conjunction with a technical engineer looking at flood modeling requirements that kind of derive it further in terms of the development of the site concept.
Thanks.
That answers your question.
That's okay. It's a multifaceted, I guess. But the east elevation of that south building. So once that road comes in and we have a sidewalk there and there's more pedestrian traffic, how do you foresee those people, or how do you create privacy there? Is it just a landscape buffer that you're creating between those units, or is there like any kind of screening that's required?
Yeah, right now on the ground floor, there's no units. It's all programmed space and outdoor use space, and then there is a buffer, natural buffer, because it is slightly elevated, about 1.2 to 1.5 meters.
Less on that south.
Less on that south side, but so in terms of there's some landscaping as well that creates a natural buffer as well. But all their suites are actually on level 2 and above, so there are definitely no overlook from the public realm into those units.
Yeah, and there will be some amount of fencing as well.
Yeah, so like along that street edge.
Yeah, the outdoor amenity area outside of that supportive housing building to the south, all of that will be fenced, and we don't have all of that laid out yet in the landscape plans, but there will be that kind of buffer as well.
Okay. And then I guess my same question was for the north building to the east side, like that's going to become a property line, which is potentially there could be another building just like it to the east. Is there what consideration was there for that future change and in the design of that elevation and the look and the feel of it?
So similarly on the ground floor, it's mostly bike storage spaces, service rooms, etc.
Yeah.
So in terms of separation or for privacy, the units are level 2 and above. We've designed it so that it is an attractive facade frontage along Government Road. Because again, we don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know what's going to happen in terms of what the future development may look like. But the intent is to design the building and to keep it attractive as it's going to be. Considering that again, Government Road may cut through or whatever, how that orientation may be in the future. But again, similar very treatment, it is bermed up. So we have a little bit of that natural buffering there as well. And then there's some landscaping treatment along that edge as well to give that softer edge.
Okay. Okay, I'll just move on to site access. So I see that the main sort of point of access is that northwest side, bringing it all the way down the west side. Was there any consideration or what mitigation have you got for traffic calming measures? So like just in terms of keeping people slow through that, given that it's designed as a straight shot.
Just through the driveway portion?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, because it's coming out, you got the site access, you're passing, if I'm right, you're passing the kids' play area, and then you pass through like a loading zone and then into the parking. And I just worry that, has there been any thought about how fast people might be moving through there?
There's definitely strategies that can apply there through signage and speed bumps that can be applied there. I don't know, Michael, if there's anything from a landscape perspective that can be considered into.
Well, yeah, as you come up the ramp, we do have a wayfinding sign on that, because we're thinking that people visiting the site will come in, they're not sure which building is which, so they need to know, and the directional signage. But it's a good question, and I think it's something that we should think about. How do we slow people down as they move, particularly as they enter the site? There, you are coming from a ramp up, and then you kind of hit a level parking, so there is kind of a change that occurs there that would probably slow traffic.
Yeah.
So it's not really something I had thought would happen, but it's something worth putting some thought to.
Yeah.
Any suggestions?
I can give you some suggestions in comments if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then again, I think I just missed this one, but the guy, you mentioned it, so I would like to talk about it, is the garbage and loading strategy on both buildings. Could you just walk us through how you're planning people circulating around the site? Because I acknowledge that's a really tricky one.
Do you want to talk to us? So for the north building, I think the garbage area, so you're asking about the garbage and loading? And how
Yeah, I guess like if people are coming to pick up the waste from the north or the south building, we could just do that one, or if loading or drop off as well.
Right, so the loading area for the affordable housing is, as you come up the ramp, there's a spot there for the garbage staging. And the garbage is contained in the building, will come out. We've got curb drops there so that you can come out and
This area here.
yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah,
Is there a better image on to
It's a bit-
to pull up?
Landscape.
Good idea.
Yeah. So we can do as quickly as possible. Apologies here.
Sorry, I'm asking complicated questions.
No, they're great questions. Steve.
Is there just a higher res site?
Yeah, I'm looking for the higher res site plan.
A2 in 110 in architectural is much better.
Thank you, Kim.
Apologies, it's not cooperating right now.
That's okay. We can move on to
Yeah, we'll do our best
another one
here.
while you're doing it. It's fine. Most of my other ones I'll leave for comments. I just wanted to ask you a thing about the materials and the color palette, and what thoughts how you arrived at that particular color palette, and whether there's any consideration for more vibrant colors.
Yeah, in terms of color selection, again, we want to paint something that's natural and complements the urban. I mean, not the urban, but the natural setting. It's a selection of beige and grays and blacks and so forth. It helps us to kind of, again, it should just be more neutral, more natural colors than having oranges and yellows and something like other colors in their buildings. I think the building itself with the color selection kind of a lot, it kind of represents itself in terms of the building massing and form. I find that when we use too many colors that are really stand out, We definitely have challenges with the building's massing form, considering it is a 6-story building form. Those are familiar with the architectural characters and design that we do as an office in Integra. Our buildings tend to fit very well with natural surroundings without being anything overly contentious, especially with the building's massing. Again, it's very personal as well, right? And very subjective, but, especially when you have lower building forms and smaller masses, you definitely can play a lot more with colors, especially buildings of this size. You want to select colors that are more natural, but allowing other kind of materials and finishes to kind of accentuate the building, give the building more an architectural expression, right? And I think we've introduced quite a bit of colors here, but I think overall it does fit well within its natural setting without popping out, especially to sensitivities around the lower building forms in this particular neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I'll leave that for my questions, and then we'll go to comments now. We'll just go back in the same order I think that we started in. So that would be Andrew. If you want to start us off.
Good. I'll just keep my comments centered around public art. My comments would be to work out some public art features together with staff. I think there's several options. There was noted to be a mural on the southern elevation of building A1 as an option. There's several other options that are available under the public art policy, including unique landscape elements, freestanding or supported sculptures or other types of art installations. So I think that given that this is a district project, I think that it has the opportunity to be a model project for the DPA guidelines that are set forth. So I'll leave my comments at that.
Thanks, Andrew. On to Michael.
Okay. Let me just scroll down to my comments here. So reviewing the planting schedule and the plants, I think there were a few species that stood out as being invasive in the area that should be considered for replacement with a different species. Those being the berberis, the euonymus, and the Prunus lorocoracis. Those have both been, all three of those have been escaping outside of more manicured settings into the natural environment. And then the quercus trees, those have also been spreading in the natural environments. And in Squamish, the bears love the oak trees, and they will sit in the trees. So just something to be aware of. I think you did a good job of working with the wildfire guidelines and locating the coniferous trees where you could. The MUP location, I guess my concern that we've discussed is just that the MUP location with the future road allowance and just making sure that the site is going to be accessible with the future MUP location, and that to the extent possible that you're not having to rework or a lot of effort to connect the site along that MUP edge to a future condition. I know there's a lot of stairs on that side, and so I think just if they can be ramps provided through access that way. But yeah, I think it sounds like more work will be needed to tie that southern edge into the future condition. I think the material finish of the potentially concrete wall on the west side of the site will be important, because that will be a fairly prominent wall to the existing residential properties to the west. And so I think that using some vegetation is a good approach there as well, but also looking at like how that concrete or whatever material that is actually finished so that it's aesthetically pleasing on its own before the plant material grows enough to cover it. I do agree with the comment that you made about needing to design that maintenance path on the west side to prevent people from using that as a thoroughfare, because it puts people directly into the residents' backyards. One idea I was looking at, although you do have a grade change you're dealing with, is but if the access is not on the road side, on the but from the drive aisle side, I don't know if that is possible, but I think if you're looking at a gate on the road side, you need to make sure that that gate is able to tie into like an existing hedge or vegetation so that people can't just walk around the gate. And yeah, I think that appreciate the constraints for fitting trees into the parking areas, but I think it would be really beneficial if one or two more trees could be fit into the rental housing building parking lot at the south end, so there can be some shade provided north into that parking area because it is a bit of a larger paved expanse. I think that'll help with some temperature regulation too to the building above. And I think I'll leave my comments there.
Thanks, Michael. On to Sarah now, please.
Okay, where to start? I guess I'll start first with sort of the paving and surfacing of the ramps. I would encourage you to use as little texture as possible on any of the ramps. Do saw cut concrete as well is much better. If possible, I would try and extend that ramp into the children's play area because it seems, it's not covered. It's going up it when it's wet or coming down, and it's a bit sketchy. I would encourage you to change one of the resident regular parking spots that's in the same bank as the 3 accessible parking spots to have a visitor accessible parking spot. You wouldn't need to change the size of it. They could then use the loading space adjacent for the access aisle. So it wouldn't change your numbers. I think that there should be a better connection between the paved pathway and the dog wash station, which also could be a bike wash station. And then you could go around the building to put your bike away. The pathways, where it does connect going through sort of the middle of the space that have the stairs on, that should be ramped. What else have I got? I think that it's great that you're trying to put 20% adaptable units and 5% accessible. You'll have to follow the BC housing guidelines, but I would encourage you to mix it up a bit with the adaptable units because right now, people with disabilities have relationships as well. Those adaptable units that are studio spaces are going to be borderline livable. All of the mobility devices take up a lot of space, and I know that you're following BC housing guidelines, but there's things like, where if the dishwasher's open and you've got your closet door open, those things are colliding. So maybe just think about switching where the dishwasher location is to the other side of the sink, vice versa. So you're not going to have those, that conflict. But it's going to be pretty tight to have like a dining table, get out of your wheelchair by the bit. Like it's going to be really tight. So if you could have any of the other larger units also be adaptable instead of some just studios, I think that, it warrants a 2-bedroom as well as in a 1-bedroom across the whole spectrum. I think it's easier in the supportive housing having those adaptable units because they're not necessarily a long-term permanent residence. It's potentially going to be turned over faster. But for people who are getting into the affordable housing units, they're going to be living there long term, and it needs to work for them. You need to add that. Pardon me?
Sorry, maybe just a point of clarification there. The supportive housing is intended as long-term permanent housing as well.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to make that clear.
Okay. You need to add the missing access aisle to the accessible parking spot that's in front of the rental building. And I would encourage you to have curb ramps that maybe don't go into the sidewalk, but come off the sidewalk into the access aisle at the end of those access aisles for the point of entry onto the sidewalk. The outdoor furnishing should, at least one of the picnic tables should provide a space for a wheelchair or a walker to go beneath. I question the color of the white band on the north aspect of the building that's going to have the signage on. I think that unless it's going to be maintained and washed regularly, is going to end up looking pretty dirty and potentially moss covered. And yeah, I think that those are my main comments. So thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. And on to Kim.
Well, I'd like to start by thanking you for the presentation and to say it looks like generally quite a good project. So good on all of you. Looking at the comments from the district, I would agree that on the affordable housing, a lot of people are going to be entering from the parking lot, and it's a pretty uncelebrated entrance. And so maybe you could work on that to improve it with through landscape and maybe some more visual cues. I know you're tight for space, but some way to make that a little bit more of a celebratory entrance, because it's kind of like, when people have an entrance from their garage, they always go in there, never the front door. And you're going to have a lot of that happening. So you could think about that more. And in terms of entrances, with the supportive housing, the dark brick, it seems to be uniformly dark brick. So it's a bit dreary. You could maybe break up the entrance area, door area, with some different material treatment, as you've done with the affordable housing. So it announces the entrance more and isn't quite so dark. and also landscaping in both of those entrances. And I know you're tight for space, but in one of the renderings, there's one poor little pot with a plant in it by the supportive housing entrance, and maybe it could be more than that. And the same with the entrance that I think most people will use on the south side of the affordable housing. If you can get some landscape in there, that would help soften that whole entrance and give it more of a signal that that's the entrance. I agree with Sarah on the white. I think it's too bright. I think most of your material choices are great, but the white, if you could soften that, give it a bit more of a muted white. I know there's a zillion types of white, but white in a place that rains like crazy is asking for moss, I think. So I would soften that. The rest of your materials, I think, look great, and your elevations and the breakup you've done is, to me, quite good. So and did I have another thing on any more comments? Really, that was it. Yeah, the metal wood, maybe if you use that as the entrance areas, something like that, something that just softens things up. And then there's the other comment about weather protection. I think weather protection around the whole building is asking a lot. I know you're doing affordable projects, but just around entrances to make sure that there is decent weather protection, and something that can work in the landscape that guides you, that makes it feel less like a parking lot as you walk to the entrances of the affordable building. Again, if you can do something there, either with a change of material or something that gives you a pathway and some clues on that, I think would help. But in general, I think it's a very commendable project. So thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, I'll finish up with my comments then now. And yeah, again, thank you very much for the presentation. It's always great to see affordable rental brought into Squamish, and understanding all of like the tricky components that can come with this. So I'd like to just commend you on what you've your efforts and what you put together. I'll start with the access onto the site. Perhaps maybe like to further Kim's comment, like the sense of arrival onto the site maybe be something, a key thing to look at, and that could tie into how we can bring people onto the site, but in a way that they're not driving through there very quickly. And I know it sounds silly sometimes that you're coming into a small parking area, but people do pick up speed quite quickly, even especially if they pull in there very fast off the road. And there is a kids' playground right there, and I think that is something that we really need to make people feel like bringing your vehicle into there, although that's the primary vehicle entrance, it's not your priority. It's pedestrian, and potentially that could be done by narrowing the throat width as much as possible without affecting loading and sight lines. It could be done in a way that maybe there is surface treatment to the road that is still accessible, and working within those type of parameters. Pedestrian oriented streetscapes could be a good avenue to look down on that one, especially given that although we want to not be defined by the car and promote all this biking that we do in Squamish, that we are still defined in some way by the vehicle. So, but by prioritizing pedestrian travel would be great. Similarly, on the opposite side, I think it's really important to focus and understand that south building will have a street frontage at some point, and really leaning into that in a way that there will be a sidewalk there, there will be landscaping at some point in the future. It will likely be quite a considerable thoroughfare for traffic, and it will connect all the way straight through, and people will use that probably quite a lot. So just ensuring that whatever functions happen there now and in the future, that we're kind of planning for that. And maybe it's more of there is that public frontage, and I think enhancing that with those ramps and playing with those grades more, understand that you've got to hit this FCL requirement, very tricky. But I think it's a landscape solution that could be arrived at there in the future. There was a comment from staff talking about the roof forms. Given this is a 6-story building and it's right up there against the zoning, and it's going to be really tricky to articulate it much further with certain with the building code requirements, etc. I think they've done a relatively good job at trying to use these horizontal lines to play with the roof forms. There could be maybe some work done with parapet on this one, but given there is an affordable building project, I think it'd be very unfair to ask for a truss type solution where we're really further articulating the roofs, especially given the recent up in seismic requirements for the building code. So I do think it does a relatively good job of that. For the materials, I do think it echoes quite a lot of the materials around the neighborhood, but it would be nice to, given that we're looking at fiber cement panels here and sort of folded metal panel products. I do find that this fiber cement works a lot better as it is the material that it is, whereas these printed wood products can create more of a faux, non-realistic type thing. So commend you on bringing that brick type look into there, but maybe there could be some elements of other color, like just an accent that is brought in there to celebrate, but not like keep that timeless color palette that you've got, you know what I mean? So I think it's been done really well. The last comment I have would be the loading and the vehicular travel within that space. The building site appears to be anchored by these two buildings, and within it is a sea of asphalt and parking. So I echo like other people on the panel of bringing in a couple more trees in there, or some softening of those hardscapes in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's through like different treatments in there and making it feel more small scale residential than commercial car park in a way. And I think that was it. Oh yeah, the retaining wall to the west, it would be really nice to see the planting grow over that. And I think it is really important that whatever that finish is for that wall is really well considered, because we have other lots back there that people will be looking straight onto that. Yep. And that's all my comments. So after that, we will be looking for a motion. The motion will be, oh no, is there any motion on this one? Sorry, Steph. Given that we only come in once and it's a affordable project.
In the report on page 4, there is 2 motions for consideration.
Thank you. I totally missed that. Page 4. Oh my. Okay, 1, 2. Got it. Here we go. Okay, sorry. Because this is affordable rental, we have 2 potential recommendations today, not the 4 that we have usually. So the options are A, that advisory design panel supports the project as presented, and B, the advisory panel supports the project in general and would like the applicant to work with staff to resolve the following. And those following would be the comments that we just gave earlier. Would anyone like to lead the charge? Sarah? You're on mute.
Sorry. I want to make a motion for B, please.
Okay. Would anyone like to second? Andrew, okay, and Andrew and Kim, everybody. Yeah. So that's the potential recommendation of B, that advisory design panel supports the project in general and wants the applicant to work with staff to follow our comments. Would you like me to summarize the comments for today, or do we have enough in the recording? Okay, I think we're good. So that would be the end of today's. Yep, go on. Yeah.
Sorry, if we're going with B, then the comments, I heard the language in the comments that, well, I would recommend this, or I would suggest that you look at this sort of thing. So I'm just wondering, do we need to now go through each comment and ensure that we meet each comment in order for that motion to have weight?
Okay,
or are these still recommendations and guidance, but are ultimately up to the development team and the planner to negotiate and figure out what works for the project?
That's a good question.
Yeah, thanks for picking that up. We could probably add to the recommendation to say to the satisfaction of staff.
Thank you.
To
Yeah,
capture that, if that was amenable to the panel.
It's pretty typical of the usual one, so I think that's fine. If anyone has any comment on that? No. Okay. So the last action is to terminate the meeting. Sarah first and seconded by Andrew. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Happy holidays.
And yeah, happy holidays.
Yeah,
Happy holidays. Thanks for sharing, Luke.
Thanks.
No worries. Thank you, guys.